I'm Alex, your host for today's episode. Let me introduce our guest for today, Dr. Kelly Fishman, owner of Strut Animal Mobility Specialists. Dr. Kelly, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, happy to be here, Alex.
So just like last time, what exactly is Strut Animal Mobility Specialists and what do you guys do?
So I'm not sure if I described it last time, but I think of myself as the dog body shop. So if your dog is slowing down, if they have any kind of injury, any kind of physical issue, arthritis, they're getting older, they just had knee surgery. My job is to come in as a veterinarian and do a few things. One is to provide pain relief that is aside from normal pain medication. And examples would be acupuncture, massage, heat, ice, things that you get from a human physical therapist or a physical therapist who works on people. And the other part of my job is to be a trainer, a fitness trainer. I teach pet parents how to do targeted strength exercises for their dogs. I teach them how to do cardiovascular endurance exercises for their dogs. And putting that fitness together with the pain management together, we keep dogs strong and healthy and moving.
And the last time that we talked, we really dived deep into that keeping pain away from your pets and animal rehabilitation. But on a base level, for folks that might not have listened in last time, what exactly is animal rehab and what does it consist of?
Yeah, so animal rehab is a veterinarian who, like I said, is providing exercises to build strength and endurance. They're providing those pain relieving modalities. We're not doing vaccines. I'm not doing surgery, nothing like that. I'm putting my hands on your dog. I'm feeling their muscles. I'm checking their strength. I'm checking for muscle tightnesses or imbalances or anything like that. So it's a completely different exam than your dog has ever had. Most general practitioners, which are the type of vets that give the vaccines, don't have the time to do the in-depth exam that I do, which is feeling every muscle, feeling every joint, checking strength, checking flexibility, that sort of thing.
And the difference between the last time we talked and right now is winter is fully underway right now. And that offers new challenges to both us and our companions. And let me tell you, a lot of challenges to me. Don't know about you, but I've been dodging flus and colds like I'm in an MMA ring. It's been rough out here. But for our companions, during the winter months, what are some of the common mobility issues and injuries you see in pets?
So just like us, the dogs' bodies are affected by the winter. Lucky they have a fur coat. So when they go outside, our Labradors especially are just so excited for this weather. I am not happy with it. I also have a lot of snow on the ground and I don't like going outside. But, certain breeds are meant to be better adapted to the snow, like our labs, like our huskies, those types of dogs. Other breeds are not as well adapted for the cold weather. Those would be our short-haired dogs, like our little French bulldogs, or Chihuahuas. Small dogs in general with short coats just do not seem to be able to tolerate the cold as much as there are other dogs, our bigger dogs and our long-haired dogs. And that's just from a coat perspective. But every one of those dogs is more stiff because of the cold weather. Just like us, their muscles take a little bit longer to warm up. Their joints are a little bit tighter. And that doesn't, what does that really mean? Well, that means that there's a couple things that people could be doing before they go outside with their dogs. I'm happy to talk about. The other thing to know is that if your dog has any kind of physical injury that's already there, it's probably going to be worse in the winter. So the classic thing is dogs or kitties with arthritis. Their arthritis is going to be worse because the barometric pressure is kind of irritating in those joints and their muscles are cold. So those dogs, we need to be a little bit more aware of as well, that they may be a little bit more slow, a little bit more gimpy. And while they love the snow, they may be a little bit more risk for injury. So just kind of some awareness out there that their bodies are just as affected as ours.
I'm sure everybody has at least one person in their family that when wintertime comes, They're always talking about how the cold weather is affecting their joints, affecting their muscles. You're saying that the cold weather does the same exact thing to our pets?
Yes.
And for active pets who love winter play, what are some of these preventative steps we can do to reduce the risk of strains, sprains, and long-term joint damage?
Yeah. So right. So I love that question. And because there is something you could do, and you probably don't know how to, that there would be something you could do. But what it is I really suggest that people do a warm up with their dogs before they go outside. So this is especially true if you have one of those senior dogs with arthritis. They're going to need the warm up. But also our 3-year-old Labrador that has been pent up inside. He's ready to go outside. He sees the squirrels. He sees his friends at the dog park, and all he wants to do is just go through this big, heavy snow. And there's ice. There's a lot of risk for injury. Take 3 to 5 minutes and do a warm up. What that means is for 3 to 5 minutes, I'm going to ask my dog to continuously move so his muscles and joints warm up. So when I go to the gym, I will do a 3 to 5 minute warm up on the treadmill or on the elliptical or something that's getting my heart rate up. So I'm increasing blood flow to the body. So what would you do in a dog? I suggest things like doing a little ball toss. So you're inside, you're in the warm house, and you just keep tossing to your dog a ball, and he's jumping up on his hind legs and he's going down. He's getting excited. And then what you can do again, you could do a couple backwards walks, which is just basically saying back to your dog. And they do a couple backwards walks. They could do things like a spine stretch. Spine stretch looks like they put their front feet up on a tall stool. They stretch out their back, trying to reach for a toy or a treat. Doing that kind of continuously, going between different movements for 3 to 5 minutes, your dog starts to develop a very light pant, which is the equivalent of a sweat. Right? So because dogs can't sweat, so they start to pant. They get a little bit of a pant, and that's when they're warmed up and they're ready to go outside.
So the winter weather, we know that the cold weather in of itself can cause problems. But with that cold weather, there's some environmental concerns that I've been so curious about. And one of those things is road salt. Does road salt pose an issue for our pets?
Yes. So the road salt can be really irritating to their paw pads. So a couple things you could do. You can get a certain type of salt. And, I've now lived in Pennsylvania for 3 years, but before that, I was a lifelong Californian. So I may mess this up, but it's a magnesium salt, I'm pretty sure, that is better for their little dog paws. So make sure to get a dog friendly or more paw friendly salt. You could also use booties. There's lots of booties out there. There are good brands. If your dogs wear them, or if you have a puppy and it's his first time in the snow, start introducing these booties. So every year when it does snow and he has to walk over salt, he's going to be used to them. But I love using booties. Those are great. But yes, salt can be really damaging, and it's important to protect them.
And again, if you're just tuning in here to Plugged Into Long Island on 102.3 WBAB and 106.1 BLI, Alex here speaking with Dr. Kelly Fishman, owner of Strut Animal Mobility Specialists. And keeping it topical, the Winter Olympics are coming up here in February. And a talking point that you love to make is that pets are everyday athletes. Why do you say that?
Because their dogs are amazing athletes. So when they looked at studies and they were comparing different species to each other in terms of their athletic ability, so they're compared an Iditarod dog, our top dog athlete, to a human, long distance marathon runner or sprinter, whatever the elite athlete is, cardiovascular wise in a human. And that dog has a better VO2 max. And I don't want to get too crazy athletic, but his athletic capacity is better than the humans. Any average Iditarod dog is better than our most elite athlete. The other crazy thing about them is if you compare a dog to a horse, everybody thinks about horses jumping and they're these amazing athletes. actually dogs can jump higher and kind of more better and more with more power than even horses. So even your couch potato dog has the ability to be an elite athlete. And I would say, just like elite athletes, they need their fitness, they need their cardiovascular strength, they need their nutrition as well. We can't also forget about that, because nutrition is so important to them as well.
You mentioned that nutrition. That's something that I feel like has been starting to get more traction. We know nutrition plays a major role in performance and recovery for human athletes. What should a pet parent know about nutrition and muscle health for their animals?
Yeah, so it's true. And it's really, it's funny because I was actually watching like an NFL linebacker training series, right? Mm-hmm. And he did a bunch of exercises. And I was thinking to myself, like, all the supplement that guy is probably on, right? Like, I'm sure he's on like creatine. I'm sure he's on a high protein specialty diet. He doesn't eat McDonald's, because he can't fuel himself with that. Like, he needs special things. So similarly, in dogs, we know that feeding a diet that's high in protein is very supportive of performance. So that makes sense. People know that feeding something high in protein, especially from an animal source, is great. But what they probably do not know is that you have an option to add muscle building supplements to your dog's diet. And no one really knows this, because when you go to the pet's food store, there's a bunch of joint supplements. There are no supplements for muscle. Right? So I'm not talking about just adding protein. I'm talking about things like creatine, things like fortitropin, which have been proven to really build muscle. Now, I can kind of get more into that, but I would suggest looking into these things, because if you have an active dog or an older dog, we have clinically proven supplements like MYOS PET, which is a fertilized egg yolk product, to build muscle. So yeah, just know there are things that you could do for that. So
there's these, specific supplements, just like you said, that help build up these muscles. Is there anything that, you and me could find at the grocery store that might be able to supplement our pets' diets?
So not really, because when I think of the grocery store, I think of protein options. And when we're looking for our dog's diet, sometimes you kind of max out at protein, right? Mm-hmm. Just like us people. And sometimes when you go to dog foods, you could only get to a certain amount of protein, or even adding a certain amount of chicken. It only gets you to certain many grams a day. And protein is well and good and helps with athletic performance. And so does fat, by the way. But what I'm really talking about is doing something that's really builds the muscles. And so we know that there are certain supplements that will stimulate muscle growth after injury. Like I was talking about that MYOS PET, that's one of them. We have studies in dogs showing that it specifically builds the muscle when they're older and then after injury. So it's not even something from the grocery store, because, well, I guess if you go to the grocery store and you have access to fertilized eggs, you can do that, but most grocery stores don't. Mm-hmm. So you do have to turn to a supplementation, because a lot of times the dog food is not enough. You have to actually supplement on top of that with certain things to actually build the muscle, like the MYOS PET.
Where can you find these supplements? Can you find them at pet stores, or is this something that you should look for online?
Online, Amazon is a great source for the MYOS PET. If you want to get a dose for like a carnitine dose, you'd have to talk to your dog about that, because your veterinarian about that, because it's going to be based on your dog's weight. So carnitine would be the other one. But yeah, the Amazon has the MYOS PET. You could find it online, on Chewy, things like that. So it's not too difficult to find online.
So we've already talked about some of the preventative steps we can take for our pets in the winter, but what are some preventative steps we can take year round that, can help prevent injury in our pets?
Yeah. So I really think that people should start thinking about fitness training for their dogs. I think it's the new hot area, to be honest, in like dog sports, for example. So all the Westminster shows coming up in February, or is in February. And that's where all the agility dogs are. All of those dogs are on fitness routines. They're on these supplements to keep them strong. So, for example, if I was suggesting what a fitness routine would look like for a home pet, maybe is an agility dog, but you just want to keep your dog strong, it would be 2 to 3 times a week. I would ask you to do 10 to 15 minutes of strength training in dogs. And the strength training would look like you teach your dog to do a plank. You teach your dog to do push-ups, you teach your dog to do squats, and then you do a little cardiovascular training with them. You could do a little bit of a trot, right? So kind of trotting or swimming. Things like that are great ways to keep your dog fit.
So it's important to keep your pets strong, but it's also important to know when they're weak and to know when they're in pain. And for full clarity, I've only had one pet in my life. It was a bearded dragon. I named him Captain Jack Sparrow because I love the Pirates movie. So it's been a very long time since I've had a pet. But how can we tell if our pets are in pain?
Yeah, so I really think that's a great question, because sometimes when they're in pain, that is long-term, meaning that it isn't just after a surgery. It isn't just after a fall. It's been there for a while. And a classic example would be a dog with arthritis. Every day they have pain, their condition isn't going anywhere. They have to live with it. So those types of dogs are not necessarily going to yelp or limp because their pain is something that they're adapting to. So when I tell people to know if dogs like that are in pain, I actually ask them to look for changes in behavior. So an example, I had a dog, it was a 6-year-old lab. They knew that he had hip dysplasia, a joint issue that he was born with when he was a baby puppy. He got through that. He's doing great. He's about 5 or 6. He's starting to get middle-aged. And as a vet, I know that arthritis is setting in right now, because that's the average age when it does. And this is actually arthritis is the number one joint issue in dogs and cats. All right. So most people who have a dog or a cat, their dog or cat probably has arthritis later in life. So anyway, the pet parent says to me, our dog is really, what is your Jack Sparrow, right? Let's pretend Jack Sparrow is the dog, or Captain Jack. So he's slowing down. On our walks, he's really getting stubborn. He's behind me a lot. He keeps sniffing a lot. I don't know why, but he's just stubborn and kind of lazy. And I was like, really? I don't think so. I bet he's sore. And I did an exam. I felt his hips and I was like, listen, your dog needs some pain medication because he's actually slowing down on his walks, not because he's stubborn and not because he's lazy or maybe getting a little bit older. That's not what it is. His hips hurt. So it is behavior changes that you want to look for to really tell if there's a little bit of a hidden pain issue.
And again, if you're just tuning in here to Plugged Into Long Island on 102.3 WBAB and 106.1 BLI, Alex here speaking with Dr. Kelly Fishman, owner of Strut Animal Mobility Specialists. And if a pet parent could do just one thing today to help their dog or cat move better during the winter, what would you recommend?
So back when I was giving you examples of that warm-up routine, do a warm-up routine. I will put one on my social media or on my website so people could see an example. But it's pretty easy. If you just remember 3 to 5 minutes of some kind of continuous exercise that your dog likes, catching ball, jumping, backwards walking, playing bow, crawling, those sorts of things are a really good way to warm up the body. And I don't think every dog would benefit from that.
Warm up the pet's body and warm up your body if you're doing it with them, right? That
Absolutely.
Can't hurt.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
So if our audience wanted to, learn more, connect with you, where can they go to follow what you're doing?
Yes, thank you for asking. So my clinic name is Strut Animal, and you can remember that because a happy, healthy feeling, dog that feels good struts. On my website, I have a blog, all of my picks that I was talking about for supplements, that sort of stuff. You can go to my website and you get links to the different supplements or exercise equipment, things like that. So my website, strutanimal.com. I also have Instagram and Facebook, and you can visit me there as well.
Once again, that is strutanimal.com. Dr. Kelly, I'd like to thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yes, it was wonderful, Alex.